So, before we start this video, let's go back in time a little. 10 years, actually, to be precise. So here we are, December 26, 2007. Let's say it's about 6 to 7 in the morning. It's the day after Christmas. You just woke up again, like, you're really excited to go play with all your new stuff, like your new Toa and Nika Bionicles, and your new Wii stuff. You got that Twilight Princess, and, Super Mario Galaxy, and then you get pissed off because Super Smash Bros. Brawl got delayed to March and 3 months later. So then you decide to go ahead and watch some Cartoon Network, and after, like, watching, like, a repeat of, like, a King of the Hill episode, you know what comes on? This comes on. This video is about Transformers Animated, and more specifically, today marks the 10th-year anniversary of the airing of the 3-part pilot to Transformers Animated, Transform and Roll Out. So, I thought it'd be fitting, just similar to how last year I did my review of the Transformers Beast Wars pilot to celebrate the Beast Wars 20th anniversary. We're doing now this to celebrate Transformers Animated's 10th anniversary. So what is regarded by many to be Transformers fans to be one of the greatest Transformers cartoons of all time alongside Transformers Prime and Beast Wars, Transformers Animated is special in the fact that it is its very own continuity, and it for such a very small piece, like for a very small entry in the Transformers universe. Like, we have the G1 cartoon, which spanned like almost 4 years. You have the Aligned continuity, which has Rescue Bots, Prime, the War for Cybertron games, Robots in Disguise 2015. Then you have the Unicron trilogy, which is Armada, Energon, Cybertron. Then you have the Bayverse movies, the IDW comics, and then you have Animated, which is just this really short 42-episode series that somehow got everyone to absolutely fall in love with its characters and all that. And you can really tell how much, obviously, Transformers Animated was really inspired by the success of the first Michael Bay movie, hence why you have characters such as Bumblebee and Ratchet and making such prominent characters in this. And so my relationship though with Transformers Animated isn't a strange one, because unfortunately at the time when Transformers Animated first aired, I'm talking about through its original run from 2007 2009, not when it got relaunched in its like full HD format on the hub from 2012 to 2014, Transformers Animated really never showed up. They never aired it during the weekdays. It was kind of the same problem they did with Robots in Disguise actually recently, in that Animated only aired like during the weekdays at 6:30 in the morning. So unless, like, because that time kids were either asleep or going to school, so no one really saw Transformers Animated, which was a shame, because, and I saw a couple of Transformers Animated, but I could never really follow the plot. I mean, I knew who, like, Optimus and Bumblebee and, like, Sorry and all them people were, but I never really, like, got to know, like, the whole plot and all that. So, now that I finally have, the luxury of owning the complete animated series on DVD, I can now go back ahead and watch the whole series to, like, enjoy it for the classic that it was. So before I get into my review of the 3-part pilot Transform and Roll Out of Transformers Animated, I'm just going to provide a little more background info on Transformers Animated. So as I said, Transformers Animated was released on December 26, 2007, and on Cartoon Network, and this was the first, and just a little, let you know, Transformers Animated is special as it was the first original American-produced Transformers cartoon in nearly about 10 years almost, like almost 10 years, like, because the last English American-made Transformers cartoon was Transformers Beast Machines, which was released in 1998, 9 years prior. So, and that series wrapped up in 2000. After that, we had English dubs of the Unicron trilogy, which was Robots in Disguise 2001, and Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. They were all, even though we did get them in between from 2001 to 2006, they were all just English dubs of the original anime series. So this was animated special as it was the very first Transformers cartoon to be American cartoon in nearly 10 years. So, Transformers Animated was developed by Studio 4C, who many of you may recognize if the art style wasn't apparent enough, by the same people who, a lot of people who worked on Teen Titans and Ben 10. And I'm not talking about, you know, those things that we have today. No, they did not work on those. They worked on these. Not those. These. These are good. Do not do this. They did not work on this. They worked on this. They did not work on this. So now that we got that out of the way, you can really tell, like, by the art style of Transformers Animated how much it was inspired. Because at this time, Teen Titans had already wrapped up, and Ben 10, I think, was just about to end before they got into its second season with Ben 10 Alien Force. And you can really tell the art style is very reminiscent of that, and how, like, I guess, for lack of better terms, how animated the characters of Transformers Animated are. It really, like, sells it with the wacky physics and all that of the show, but also it really has, like, dark moments of the show similar to the Transformers Prime. And this is actually really apparent in the final part of the pilot, which I'll get into later. But anyway, I'm gonna soon stop doing this, and we're gonna finally go into our review of the Transformers Animated Seasons 1, Episodes 1 through 3, Transformers Rollout Parts 1, Part 2, and Part 3, see what they did right and what they did wrong. First off, we just gotta have a shout out to the, you can't start a Transformers Animated review without talking about how absolutely epic the theme song for Transformers Animated is. And now, it's really simple. All it is it's kind of a more modernized remix of the original G1 theme song, and is, I think, besides, like, it's really along with the G1 theme song, is really the only Transformers show to have a proper lyrical theme song. I mean, all, like, Robots in the Skies 2015 and the Unicron trilogy. Oh, it's constantly saying Transformers, Robots in the Skies. Literally, that they say that the entire time. I think Energon and Cybertron actually had the same openings. And then Robots in the Skies, you know, had that. And Transformers Prime, don't get me wrong, Transformers Prime had a good thing, but the fact that it was just kind of like an orchestral theme of such, and it didn't have any lyrics, I don't know, it just felt, it was good, but nowhere near as good as Transformers Animated theme song was. And it definitely sticks out to me as one of the best theme songs in cartoon history by far. Definitely tied with, like, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003 theme song. I'm thinking of like American Dragon Jake Long, stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, if you obviously you saw the I put the theme song of the show in the beginning of this review, so you already know how epic this is, just because, like, I don't know, it's the way the colors move, and you run past all the Autobots, and then it goes into, like, the Decepticons. It really shows, like, how much love was put into the show. So I'm just saying, the theme song is one of, if not the best theme song in the whole Transformers series. So now, we're actually going to go into the plot of the pilot. So part 1 starts off, interestingly enough, as it shows footage from, the original G1 cartoon, in which we have this narrator explaining how there was this great war millions of years ago between the Autobots and the Decepticons, and that they fought each other, the Cybertron, and then they were fighting over the Allspark, which, like I said, Transformers Anime was inspired heavily by the first Michael Bay movie. As such, was the Allspark, which was the main thing Megatron was trying to get in the first Transformers movie. That's carried over to this. It's kind of like the main thing of Transformers Animated. Like, remember, if you would think of that, back to Transformers Prime, let's say, about how Optimus and Megatron was fighting to get all those Cybertronian artifacts, or like the Omega keys in Season 2. This is kind of like the precursor to that. And in fact, a lot of what happens in Transformers Animated is precursor to, it's kind of like sets the bar for the rest of the Transformers cartoons. Like, especially the whole lineup of Transformers Animated, especially led into Transformers Prime, because, well, we'll get into that later. So anyway, after it shows, like, this, basically this, archived footage from the G1 cartoon of, the narrator explaining how the Autobots defeated the Decepticons, even though, and then, they were kind of like, the Decepticons were kind of brought in exile. We cut to a surprisingly young Optimus Prime. Not talking about, like, Orion, Optimus Prime brainwashed into being Orion Pax back in Transformers Prime. We're talking about, like, a legit, like, Optimus Prime, who's about probably the same age as Bumblebee was in Robots in the Skies 2015. And it is a great, change of pace to can I just say how much I love animated Optimus Prime, and the fact that it's such a radical, like, change from, Optimus before him. In, the Unicron trilogy, we kind of had, like, just the stern leader, but, like, he still had a little humor to him. In G1, he was kind of like the cool dad, who still, though, was kind of a wise leader. And then you have in Transformers, in Prime and Robots in the Skies, you have, like, the old battle-hardened warrior who's kind of, like, taking a back seat and, like, just wants, and, like, is really, like, calm and, like, collected and all that. You just have, animated Optimus now, who's kind of like just this guy, as, we see here. Animated Optimus is actually a graduate of, the Autobot, Academy, as he explains to, Ratchet, who is actually we see here is quite a precursor to Prime Ratchet, as, animated Ratchet has a lot of similarities to, Prime Ratchet, and that they're both, like, really old mechs who, like, are just kind of like, they're always complaining about something, but you don't have animated Ratchet saying that, oh, how he needed that every single time, but, you get the idea. Like, he always complains about, like, his hands, like, being too slow and such, and it's really nice. So for cast-wise, this is before, Peter Cullen decided to return voicing Optimus in, Transformers Prime, and although while he still currently voiced him in the Bayverse movies, Peter Cullen hadn't voiced Optimus in a TV show since the original G1 cartoon, so, interestingly enough, in Transformers Animated, Optimus is voiced by none other than David Kaye, who for any Transformers fan, will actually recognize him as the voice of Megatron in Transformers Beast Wars and the Unicron trilogy. So to have the voice actor of Megatron now voicing Optimus, I think is just really great. It just, honestly, I really think David Kaye did a great job in portraying a younger, like, more inexperienced Optimus, and I really, like, he thinks he brings a lot to the character. Other works David Kaye's done is, he's also recently done the voice of Jedha in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. He recognized the voice of Logan in the Dead Island series, and he voices, he's now the new voice of Max Tennyson in the Ben 10 reboot, which isn't as bad as, like, Teen Titans Go or, the Powerpuff Girls reboot, but it could still use some work, so yeah. Anyway, as for Ratchet is actually surprisingly voiced by Corey Burden, who you may also, for any Transformers fan, you'll recognize him as the voice of Shockwave from the original G1 cartoon. So we have a lot of previous Transformers alumni coming back from, like, G1 or, like, Beast Wars to voice characters in animated, and we have a couple of new faces as well, who I'll get into later. So, anyway, we have this nice little conversation after Optimus is done watching this, like, old documentary in which Ratchet and, like, Optimus explain what it means to be a hero, and how, because really, as we see later on, they're on this asteroid, repairing a space bridge, and we learn that Optimus and his crew are literally, they're not like the powerful Autobots Team Prime that you see in, like, the G1 cartoon or Transformers Prime. No, these guys are a bunch of, like, rookie kids repairing space bridges. That's literally all they do. And it's such a refreshing change of pace to see, like, the Autobots, like, portrayed like this. Like, normally, we see them, I mean, the closest we've got to this was Robots in the Skies recently with, like, well, we had Bumblebee as, like, this awesome hero. People like Strong Arm, Sideswipe, and, Grimlock were kind of just newbies. They were still new to this, and Bumblebee was there to kind of teach them to be these heroes. And while that did work, I did like that, this was kind of the precursor to that. Not only did you have, with the exception of Bumblebee and Robots in the Skies, who was already a hero for, like, killing Megatron, here you have, Optimus, and Optimus himself, he's not a Prime. I mean, he is called Optimus Prime, but the Prime means nothing. He's not a Prime, he's just a guy called Optimus Prime. He wasn't Orion Pax in an alternate lifetime, he'd die and come back as Optimus Prime. He's literally just a guy fresh out of the Autobot Academy who has been sent to work on, repairing space bridges. After this, we get introduced to, Bumblebee and new character Bulkhead. Now, although Bulkhead did technically appear first in Transformers Energon, this was the series that really introduced Bulkhead into the Transformers lore. In here, Bulkhead is voiced by Bill Faberbacke, who, for any cartoon fan, you'll probably recognize him as the voice of Patrick in SpongeBob. And it really shows here, because, rewatching this and seeing how much Bulkhead sounds like Patrick from SpongeBob, it's really, really interesting, like, to see, like, I would never thought, like, Bill Faberbacke could, like, sound like that, because you always hear, like, Patrick talking in, like, that deep, oh, SpongeBob, I like that good, you have, like, the, we're selling chocolates, and, like, him like that, and now here, like, he kind of sounds like, he does, like, he still has, like, tones of his Patrick voice in there, but it's, like, a lot more, like, serious and, like, but it's still kind of, like, goofy and stuff like that. And then for Bumblebee, you have him voiced by new voice actor Bumper Robinson. While this is his only time in a Transformers cartoon, he would also do a lot of other stuff down the line. You may recognize him as the voice of Rook in Ben 10 Omniverse, who was basically Ben's partner for that, and he was actually one of my favorite characters in Ben 10 Omniverse, so I was really surprised to see that Rook got to start out voicing Bumblebee in this, so I like that. And then finally, so after that, Optimus decides to go out to help Bumblebee and Bulkhead, who are busy trying to repair a space bridge, and they're like in trouble, like about to be crushed by some like fallen debris and such. And then they're about to be crushed when they are saved by none other than Prowl, who is not the Prowl that you expected. Normally, if you think of Prowl, you think of the cop car Prowl from G1, who just got blasted by Starscream in the movie and died, and he had the smoke coming out of his mouth and everything. Or you think of IDW Prowl, who is arguably the best Prowl in my opinion. He's one of my favorite characters in IDW comics. You have basically, IDW Prowl, who is essentially the Autobot version of Starscream, and I love him. And now you have animated Prowl, who is just like how Optimus is such a departure from regular other Optimuses. You have animated Prowl, who you turn into this ninja-like character. And can I just say how much, like, when I said that you can see like the style of Teen Titans in Transformers Animated, it really shows here through the main cast. I mean, you have your young, inexperienced but hopeful leader. You have your goofy. You have your big, burly but like kind-hearted but like strong fighter. You have your young, witty, like, party boy who's like, oh, he doesn't really take things seriously. Then you have the quiet older brother / sister who really gets into like the more darker themes of the show. And then, well, I mean, I guess if you count all the weird Optimus and Ratchet fanfics, they're kind of a couple, but 4 out of 5 ain't bad. So anyway, you can really see like how much Transformers Animated is essentially Teen Titans but with robots. And this goes further into, we'll come back to this when we go talk over what happens in part 2. But anyway, I've talked too much about the characters and all that, even though this is the first episode. So let's go ahead and just keep going. After Prowl saves Bulkhead and Bumblebee, the crew finishes repairing the space bridge, and then we get this nice little conversation with Optimus, Bulkhead, and Bumblebee, in which Bumblebee asks Optimus, why, how come you're here stuck doing space bridge repairs when you graduated from Autobot Academy? Shouldn't you be like joining the Elite Guard and all that? And another thing here is this is the introduction of the Cybertronian Elite Guard, which we later see once again in Transformers Prime, where when Smokescreen is introduced, we found out he was a former member of the Cybertronian Elite Guard. Anyway, so after that, Optimus is about to head back onto the Ark along with the rest of the Autobots, when he notices a strange blue light coming from a bunch of rocks. He uncovers it, and it looks like, to me, kind of looks like a giant version of the Matrix of Leadership, but it's a more blocky version. However, once Ratchet sees it, he freaks out and decides to take it inside. Optimus asks Ratchet what's going on, when Ratchet reveals that it's the Allspark. And so Optimus is crazy, like, oh my god, I can't believe we found the Allspark, we gotta tell people about this. So he ends up they all end up calling Sentinel Prime, and Sentinel, I mean, he is, like, no matter what continuity you're in, I mean, I can't quite remember how he was in Transformers Cybertron. I knew he was in Transformers Cybertron, but I mean, based on in Dark the Moon and the IDW comics now animated, you can tell Sentinel Prime is a real jerk. He is. I mean, also, look at that chin. He's got such a big chin. Do you see this? Look at this chin. What is that? So anyway, Sentinel, Optimus ends up calling Sentinel, asking him to do the Allspark, but Sentinel doesn't really believe him, and just says, like, that they should get back to work and focus on, repairing space bridges and all that. Another thing to note there is Sentinel Prime is voiced by Townsend Coleman, and while this is his first time in a Transformers cartoon, if you're a big cartoon fan, you may recognize him also as the original voice of Michelangelo in the 1987 Teenage Ninja Turtles cartoon, and he would later come back to reprise his role as Michelangelo in the crossover episodes with the 2012 iteration of Teenage Ninja Turtles, which I thought was really interesting to see Michelangelo, who had this crazy party dude, now voicing this kind of cocky, like, selfish, jerk in Sentinel Prime. It's kind of a mood whiplash, in my opinion, but, yeah, it's really jarring. So anyway, Optimus and the crew decide what they're going to do with, the Allspark, when all of a sudden, they end up picking up a Decepticon ship coming in, and Optimus is completely surprised, but it's like, oh, like, wait, I thought, he tells Ratchet, I love Ratchet because he essentially becomes the Cup of this, of Transformers Animated. If you remember, Cup from Transformers G1, he was the old, like, military Autobot who was always telling, like, these old war stories and all that, and so the whole point was that Optimus kind of looks up to Ratchet in, like, a fatherly way, and that, Ratchet was there during, like, the original era of the Great War, long before Optimus, Bumblebee, Bulkhead, and Prowl, and so, anyway, like, he asks, Ratchet, like, oh, Ratchet, I thought all the Decepticons were dead. He's like, no, we just, like, kicked them out of Cybertron and all that. And so, anyways, they decide to go investigate it when they suddenly get a call from Ultra Magnus, who, warns, Optimus, like, they say, like, there's always this constant thing about, like, other Autobots, like, talking down to Optimus and basically saying that he's not a hero, and so basically, he tells, Optimus not to engage the Decepticon ship, and that it could just be a recon ship, but not to engage it because their ship is in it, like, he says not to be a hero and all that. Once again, Ultra Magnus is voiced by, Jeff Glenn Bennett, who also voices Prowl in this. Now, while this is also his first time voicing in a Transformers cartoon, you probably all recognize him as he voiced the original voice of Johnny Bravo. Yes, you guy going from Johnny Bravo to voicing the serious Ultra Magnus and Prowl. Once again, you have all these, like, these really shocking, like, character changes. Like, you have Corey Byrne playing, like, the statistical Shockwave and, G1. You have him now playing the cranky Ratchet. You have the very smooth-talking, like, evil Megatron with David Kaye now playing a young, inexperienced Optimus. And it's just crazy. So, anyway, as they're doing this, we cut to, the Decepticon ship, which starts to attack, the Ark, and we see that it is huge, and it like twice the size of the Ark, and we actually see that from its design, it's very similar to the way the Nemesis would eventually look in Transformers Prime, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, we then cut on to the Decepticon warship, where we see, none other than Starscream leading the charge against the Autobots, and I gotta say, Starscream's, design is, while Starscream's design definitely fits with Transformers Animated, and I like parts of it, his color scheme I'm not too fond of with the pinks and all that, the pinks and the purples. It's kind of like too much like Skywarp in my opinion, and I think it'd be better if they either kept the red, white, and blue color scheme of G1, or maybe just went with, just anything other than purple, because he seems too much like Skywarp in that, in my opinion, but that's just me. Anyway, Starscream in this continuity is voiced by Tom Kenny, surprisingly enough, so for anyone who knows cartoons, you most likely know Tom Kenny as the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants and the Ice King in, Adventure Time. So, and I gotta say, like, having, like, SpongeBob voicing such a sinister and conniving character like Starscream, I mean, it works, given how, like, high-pitched Starscream's voice is, and it works really, really well, but, like, there are parts where, like, you have SpongeBob playing this, like, really, like, deadly Decepticon, it just doesn't work for him, so I'll get to more to this in part 3 when he comes back, but, for now, we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, Starscream's there, and he ends up, getting into this argument with, the 3 other Decepticons on the ship. We have Lugnut, who is essentially the early version of what Breakdown would become in Transformers Prime. He's, like, kind of like the anti-Bulkhead, in which he's, like, this bumbling, like, idiot who's just kind of, like, there. And then you have Black Arachnia, who is, who you may remember from Beast Wars. This time, she's back, and once again, is kind of like a precursor to Arachnid. Black Arachnia is kind of like this sassy person. Once again, all these people, David Kaye also voices Lugnut on top of voicing Optimus, and, Black Arachnia is actually voiced by Cree Summers, for, anyone who's recently into, for rewatching cartoons recently, she's currently the voice of Hagar in Voltron Legendary Defender, so it was really nice, interesting to see that coming back from, because I'm a huge fan of the Voltron series, and having come back to watch Plutto's Embassy and see Hagar voice Black Arachnia, who essentially kind of like the same, well, Black Arachnia's got more spunk to her than Hagar, since, like, she's younger than her, and she's not, like, she's much more active than Hagar. It's definitely, like, you can still see those, like, bits of Hagar in Black Arachnia, and I do like to see that, like, she's kind of like a precursor to Arachnid, who, like, and what the character she would become in Transformers Prime is. So anyway, as they're, arguing. A third Decepticon comes in, who is actually Blitzwing from G1. Blitzwing is also voiced by Bumper Robinson, who voiced Bumblebee. And the interesting thing about Blitzwing here is that Blitzwing actually has 3 personalities. All of them have, like, this, he's, like, plays, like, this mad German scientist thing, but I think is really cool. And each version actually has their own, like attack. So you have, the first Blitz, when it comes out, he ends up, like, he's kind of like a cool person. Like, like, his face is blue, and he has, like, this cool, like, little monocle thing. Kind of reminds me of Perceptor's, like, optic visor thing. And he has, like, ice attacks, like, in which he freezes Arachnid's, Black Arachnia's arm. I'm so used to saying Arachnid from, like, just talking about, like, Robots on Skies and Prime. So, he freezes, Black Arachnia's arm, and then when Black Arachnia insults him, he shifts personality to, like, a red face, in which he's still German accent, but now he's, like, a lot more angry, and as we learn, he gets, like, fire powers in this form. And then he gets to a third form where his face is black and he's just got red eyes and, like, a venom smile, and he just becomes, like, really crazy. And I just love, like, I really like what they decided to do with Blitzwing, and, like, just reinvent him along with all the, like, many other favorite characters from Transformers, and make him this, like, new, really weird character, but I love it. I absolutely love it. And so, anyways, Starscream picks up that the Allspark may possibly be on the Ark with the Autobots, so he decides to go inform Megatron about this, who I gotta say, if you look at Megatron's design, it is heavily influenced by animated Megatron's appearance is heavily influenced by his design in the the first Bangverse movie. You can see that with the head and the shoulders, in my opinion, and his old mode, in which he transforms into a Cybertronian aircraft, just like he did in the G1 in the original movie, and would also be the basis for his appearance in Prime, in which he also transforms into a Cybertronian aircraft. Anyway, also, Megatron in Transformers Animated is voiced once again by Corey Burton, who also voices Ratchet in this. So you had the original voice of Shockwave now coming to voice Megatron, and I gotta say, Corey Burton does an incredible job of voicing Megatron. Like, honestly, he does, like, a really good, like, it's really close to how, like, Frank Welker sounds as Megatron, and it kind of sounds like, it still manages to sound kind of distinct, but a lot better than Hugo Weaving's Megatron in the first 3 Bayverse movies before Frank Welker took over in Age of Extinction. And I really think, like, compared to what I've seen, like, with David Kaye voicing Beast Wars Megatron, he's definitely in, like, my top 3 favorite Megatron voices with David Kaye and Frank Welker. So anyway, Megatron prepares to go ahead and board the Ark himself, because he thinks that he can just take the Autobots himself, but not before Starscream plants some device on his back, unbeknownst to Megatron. As Megatron is getting ready to board the ship, Optimus manages to hold Megatron out on the exterior of the ship by like grabbing at him, like, with the Ark's, like, exterior ship arms. But then suddenly the device that Starscream planted on Megatron's back starts to tick, and a huge explosion covers the top of the Ark, which seemingly kills Megatron. And so when Optimus sees this and he thinks that Megatron is dead, not before Megatron breaks into the Ark and literally wipes the floor with Optimus and Prowl. And we get this awesome fight scene between all the Autobots, and we really see, it's nice to see, like, all the Autobots working together like this. We have, like, and the fights, I gotta just talk about here, the fights are a lot better than Robots and Skies. We actually, like, kind of see, like, the effects. We actually see, like, punches connecting other than and stuff like that. Like, we see, like, when Megatron hits him with an axe, he actually reels from the attack. Not like Robots in the Skies, where it's kind of just like, pow, cut to white, like, flash of white, and then, like, shows him being knocked back or something like that. I mean, there are a couple exceptions in Robots in the Skies where they did do what anime did, but not as much, probably because Robots in the Sky is a lot more kid-friendly than animated, but surprisingly enough, because honestly, animated sounds a lot more kid-friendly than Robots in the Skies. And then Bumblebee and Bulkhead coming running, because they were sent to protect the Allspark, but then Megatron stops them, and Megatron is actually doing pretty well, other than the fact that, like, his right arm is missing and such like that. We get this epic fight scene between, with Ratchet, Bulkhead, Bumblebee, and Optimus and Prowl versus Megatron. We have a couple moments where, like, Prowl decides to go ahead, like, against Optimus' orders to charge Megatron, and successfully, like, ends up cutting off the rest of Megatron's, like, broken arm. And so this fight continues throughout the which I gotta say looks really, really nice with, like, the whole motion blur effects and all that. Optimus ends up Megatron ends up getting the Allspark, but not before the Allspark, like, starts to activate and sends him along with Megatron, along with the rest of the Autobots in the Ark, through the space bridge they just repaired, and the space bridge though implodes in that. Right, and then as Starscream gets ready to, funny enough, he decides to go ahead and tell the other Decepticons that Megatron's dead now, but as he sees this, the exploding space bridge is coming straight towards Starscream. We see Black Arachnia, Lugna, and the rest of the Decepticons have already gone off the ship with escape pods, and Starscream is supposedly killed when the space bridge explodes. Anyway, we then cut to back to the Ark, in which we see it like jump through the space bridge and is now heading straight towards Earth. And when we get this really epic scene of Megatron, Optimus and Megatron, we really get to see like how resourceful Optimus is, in which when he opens up the access hatch for the Ark and ends up fighting, really kicking himself and Megatron out of the ship. But Optimus manages to brace himself by using his axe in like the shaft so that he stays in, while Megatron seemingly falls out of the ship and supposedly burns up in Earth's atmosphere. After this, and even before this, though, we see, like, when they're crashing to Earth, Optimus says, oh, I'm gonna go deal with Megatron. Ratchet, you make sure everyone gets in, like, these stasis pods so that we survive the crash. And it really shows, like, how, even though this is a brand new Optimus who is a lot, like, younger and inexperienced, he still has the core, values that, like, other versions of Optimus have, and that he's, like, a very selfless character who's always trying to, who doesn't want to prove himself. He just wants to, like, be a hero and, like, just protect the Autobots and, like, the Earth and all that. So you see how much he values, like, Ratchet and everyone else's lives over his own, so that he goes to fight Megatron by himself, successfully knocks him out of the Ark, and then gets into a stasis pod as right before they crash over, as they're entering the atmosphere, Optimus, they fly over, actually they fly over Detroit, Michigan, and Optimus just manages to pull up the Ark before it crashes into the city, so instead they crash into Lake Erie, and before they crash into the lake, Optimus finally gets in his stasis pod, and they all go underwater, which is a nice, parallel to the G1 cartoon, in which Optimus and the Autobots are crashed inside a volcano while Megatron's ship crashed in the water. So it's a nice little sort of like a parallel there. Anyway, we then cut to this one shot of this one boy. He's like working in his lab. We see like he's got all these like projects. When he sees a comet like fly past his house and explode, he goes out to investigate in the middle of the night and finds none other than Megatron's lifeless head scattered across all this other debris. But then suddenly the episode fast forwards 50 years into the future, so we're assuming that fight with Optimus and Megatron and then crashing into Earth, we assume this is probably like around the 1960s or 70s and such. So anyways, we flash forward 50 years later, where with that same boy who found Megatron's head is now this great professor named Professor Sumdac, and he has turned the city of Detroit into this like robot utopia in which they have all these robots helping out people and such, and like making life better for them. We actually see a couple of nice little Easter eggs of G1 here in the form of one scene. We actually see Spike, Carly, and their son Daniel from the original G1 cartoon at one point. And it's little things like this that show how like much of a love letter Transformers Animated is to G1, and I really appreciate that. And even this actually isn't the last time we'll be seeing Spike and Carly, so be sure to keep an eye on for them later in the future episode of Transformers Animated. Anyway, we cut now to Professor Sumdac, who is leading these bunch of kids through a field trip of sorts into like his laboratory, where he reveals these microbots that are able to sort of like adapt using that are sort of able to to multiply and adapt to anything in the hopes of like making like curing diseases and such, and hopefully like for cancer or stuff. It's also at this point we get introduced to Professor Sumdac's daughter, Sari, who is essentially the main human of this story of Transformers Animated. She's like this little spunky girl. If you can really tell from her appearance that she's essentially the prototype Miko, and this honestly shows in her actions in part 2, which I'll get to later. Sari Sumdac is actually voiced by Tara Strong, who, for many cartoon fans, you'll recognize her as the voice of Timmy Turner in a Fairly Odd Parents series, Harley Quinn, and Batman the Animated Series, along with like several other things, such as the Arkham series and Injustice 2. And then there's another right here. You can't also draw the parallels from Teen Titans to Transformers Animated. Tara Strong also previously voiced Raven in Teen Titans and also reprises her in the Teen Titans Go reboots. But anyway, we see her like in which she's like fighting with her her pet robot dog Sparkplug, which again is a nice reference to G1, how Spike's father was named Sparkplug, and so she's like fighting with him over like her like access key to get into the lab and such, and so we learned that like for some reason Sari's been homeschooled her entire life, and so when she wants to go join a field trip, her father just has her sent away and such, and continue taking a field trip, but not before one of the nanobot experiments goes out of control and multiplies so rapidly, creates like this giant like bioorganic monster thing, and it like starts to attack Professor Sumdac, and that's where the episode ends. So now, that was the end of part 1, which I think was a great way of setting up like the Autobots and such, and really like shows like gives us an idea for the setting of what anime's gonna be in the city of Detroit. So now we're gonna go ahead and move on to part 2. So now we move on to part 2 of the Transformers Animated Pilot, Transformers Rollout Part 2, in which it picks off right after part 1 ended. We see Professor Sumdac and the rest of the kids are being evacuated from the laboratory after the Microbots experiment went wrong. We see a bunch of like police officers and firefighters come to stop the monster, led by this one cop named Captain Fanzone, who I think is hilarious enough. He's voiced once also by Jeff Glenn Bennett, who you can really tell out of all the characters' voices with Prowl and Ultra Magnus, Captain Fanzone is really the most Johnny Bravo-like character he voices. He's kind of like this brash, he's kind of like this sort of lazy cop and such like that, and he's always like overconfident and everything. And he's a really funny character. He's actually kind of reminds me a lot of like a prototype version of the one cop who chases his partner in Transformers Rescue Bots. I haven't watched a lot of Transformers Rescue Bots to remember his name, but if you watch a lot of Transformers Rescue Bots, you know what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, the Autobots, not the Autobots, the Captain Fanzone and all the other cops are busy trying to fight the Microbots when Professor Sumdac notices that his daughter, Sari, is still missing. After this, Captain Fanzone orders his troops to fire rocket launchers at the Microbot, which blows up into like a million pieces and supposedly kills it. But then we see that all the other pieces are slowly reforming, and one of these pieces falls into the ocean where the Ark is now resting, and that sets off like an intruder alert system, like an alarm, which wakes up Optimus and the rest of the Autobots. Here they decide that Ratchet finds the Microbots and decides to analyze it while Optimus and the rest of the crew realizes that the Microbots are attacking the people up above the surface, so they need to but they don't want to scare the humans, so they think that their cars are the humans, so they decide to Optimus tells Teletran to send a satellite up into the over there to scan various vehicles that they can take the form. And it's very similar to how it worked in Transformers G1, in which after the Ark crash, Teletran 1 automatically scanned Earth vehicles for all the Autobots that they could so they could survive, I think it was, or just I honestly don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen G1. Anyway, and it's really cool to see how they get their upgrades, in which while with let's say with Robots in the Skies and Prime, they just scan it with their eyes and they magically get all the the wheels and the hood, the kibble and all that. With Animated, it's nice because after Teletran scans all the vehicles, they have this tube that goes up, and Optimus each of the Autobots enters one by one and gets their new form. And it's really cool. It shows how much how different they are in these new forms, and also this is the first time now when they transform. You really gotta appreciate how the Autobots look when they're talking in their car forms, because unlike Prime and Robots in the Skies, where they stay completely static with some exceptions, like when Bumblebee starts singing to himself in back in season 2 of Robots in the Skies, when he's in a parking lot, he's just singing the Rear Axle song. With that exception, they're always static when they're driving and talking. But in this, they really you seem they bend and stuff like that, and obviously this is because, hence the name Transformers Animated, the characters in Animated are really animated. It works so well, and it really shows personality. You see Bumblebee sometimes in his car form, when he takes on the form of Captain Fanzone's car, he constantly he likes to use his hand, he turns his car doors into his arms, he gives a thumbs up with his hand before it turns back to his car door, or with Bulkhead when he turns into the army car, I think, the SWAT van, he turns into like his windshield kind of acts as like huge kind of like expressive eyes for him. And I really think that works really well for his character. And like shows like how much like a lovable character he is. Anyway, as they're after this, they all decide to head up to the surface to fight the microbots, in which at first they try to Captain Fanzone's like and the rest of the humans are confused as to like how like the cars are supposedly driving themselves, when they decide that since they're not doing much in their cover, they decide to go ahead and take the monster head on, which doesn't really work, in which Bulkhead loses an arm. He tries to like pull it out, but not before Prowl, and Optimus tries to help him pull it out, but not before Prowl uses one of his ninja stars to cut Bulkhead's arm off before Bulkhead gets sucked in completely. And this kind of sets a nice contrast between Prowl and Optimus, as we see as Prowl is like constantly sees himself as this loner type character who doesn't think he needs others to help him and such, and he thinks that he can get around just fine on his own. To which Optimus says that no, that you need to be a team player on this team, which is a nice little this is a sort of seems a nice little like parallel to what would later happen in Robots in the Skies with Bumblebee and Sideswipe, and I think that's really nice how the relationship with Optimus and Prowl here is similar to what it would be with Bumblebee and Sideswipe in Robots in the Skies. So anyway, Prowl just like brushes off like whatever, and so they all go back to fighting him when Sari comes out of the lab, she was busy tracking down her dog Sparkplug, her pet robot dog Sparkplug, and so she ends up escaping, but then she notices the microbot and she screams, which is and she gets Bumblebee and Bulkhead run after her, and so however she's afraid of them too. So eventually though, when the microbot corners Sari, Bumblebee jumps in and saves Sari, which sets up a nice little dynamic between Sari and Bumblebee, as like in which Sari sees Bumblebee as like her favorite out of all of them, and so she really trusts him about her. When Professor Sumdac sees Bumblebee with Sari, he thinks that he's like gonna hurt her, and he's another part of Microbots, so he has Captain Fanzone like or open fire on Bumblebee, and he's like constantly has to like run away from them. All that's really funny. So anyway, after Sari and Bumblebee get away from Fanzone and the rest of the Microbots, Prowl ends up trying to fight the Microbot a little bit more, but ends up getting sucked in by absorbed by the Microbots. At this point, Optimus tries to calls Ratchet and tries to figure out a way to get it to get Prowl out, and which he realizes that the only way to shut down the Microbot and by extension free Prowl is to get inside of the Microbot and activate an EMP device. So Ratchet sends the EMP device up to Optimus, who decides that Bumblebee should be the one to do it. We get this nice little bond moment between Bumblebee and Sari, who kind of encourages Bumblebee to do it even though he's afraid, and it's really nice to show that how Bumblebee, we saw this before. This is a nice little contrast because every other Bumblebee we've seen with Prime Bumblebee, with G1 Bumblebee, he's never he's always been tiny. He's never really shown to be afraid really, and the show and it gives animated Bumblebee a sense of a more human sense than Prime Bumblebee or G1 Bumblebee, who they're all both really young. They're all young characters who act childish and stuff. They're all mostly kind of brave characters who really weren't afraid of danger. And to see animated Bumblebee kind of be exposed to being afraid and such, it really makes me appreciate animated Bumblebee more than other versions of him. So anyway, Bumblebee ends up managing to jump inside the Microbot and activates the EMP device, killing him, blowing up to pieces. And then they get Prowl out, but not before they realize that his spark has been critically damaged. At this point, Sari decides to go ahead. She nags Bumblebee into taking her back to the Ark with him. And so we get this funny little scene of Bumblebee trying to hide the fact that he has Sari with her when Optimus, Bulkhead, and Ratchet are looking over Prowl. And so after that, Bumblebee ends up dropping Sari down an air vent in the Ark to keep the shutter up, and she ends up running into the Allspark when all of a sudden she walks up to it, and she gets this flash of all the Cybertronian knowledge, and as such the Allspark gains all knowledge of Earth, and it transforms her ID card into this weird key shaped thing, and we'll get more into this later with part 3, later with part 3, as well as this part, and even more so. This will come down way back in season 3. We'll get to this later eventually. So anyway, at this point, Optimus finds Sari sneaking around at the Allspark, and she wonders what she's doing, there, at which point she tries to explain to the Autobots that, she wants to, that Bumblebee helped her and that she wants to help Prowl, but Ratchet doesn't understand how. So then, at this point, Sari notices that her ID chip, which is now a key, is glowing around her neck when she gets close to Prowl. So she sees like a keyhole in Prowl's chest and puts the key in Prowl, which instantly heals him. And so he's like completely surprised by this. And at this point, Optimus kind of like gives Prowl a lecture on like wanting to, like, you have to, like, hey, listen, you said you can count yourself, but look, you almost died, and now we gotta help you. Now you see you have to work together about it. And Prowl's like, yeah, okay. So then there's that. So at this point, the Autobots, Sari takes the Autobots back up to the surface when, because she wants to explain to her, like, to her father and the rest of, the people of Detroit that, like, oh, the Autobots are nice people. However, at this point, Professor Sumdac sees them and, like, freaks out and tells, like, Sari to get away from them. But Sari's like, no, they're cool. So like, and so they tell the Autobots to put their hands up. And there's this really funny part where, like, put their hands up and, like, I think it's, Bumblebee says, like, oh, why they want to put their hands up, and then I think it's Ratchet says, like, oh, I think they'll make us seem less scary, so they, or, I think it's Bulkhead that says that, so they all put their hands up, and they do it in such a menacing manner that it scares them even more. But, at that point, Sari manages to convince her father and Captain Fanzo and the rest of the cops that, like, oh, the Autobots are good people, and that they helped save her and kill the Microbots. So at this point, the Autobots basically become the superheroes of Detroit. They basically become the Teen Titans of Detroit. If this show couldn't have any more Teen Titans references in it. However, at this point, Optimus still kind of feels bad, like the fact that he doesn't really still feel like a hero. He feels like he's still basically being like a space bridge repairman and stuff like that. And so, anyway, we get this quick stinger to reveal that that Starscream is in fact still alive, and that the Decepticon warship was only slightly damaged. And so, we see Starscream slowly heading towards Earth, where he picks up on the location of the Allspark. So now we move on to part 3, where Optimus and the rest of the Autobots are basically invited to attend this, to look over this ceremony of Professor Sumdac unveiling this new bullet train, which will be able to go 300 miles per hour and such. We actually get I think one of the funniest moments in the whole this whole pilot right here, in which Optimus is talking to Sari, in which he says, oh, he's so fascinating about the humans, and he wants to how do you reproduce such. And then you see Sari whisper in Optimus's ear, and then he just has this huge face of shock of him, he's been traumatized, and I just love it. Anyway, so after that, we then cut to Starscream, who has now arrived at Earth looking for the Allspark, and he ends up taking out a bunch of fighter jets and camouflage himself as one of them so he can attack the presentation. And I gotta say, at this point, this moment has its good and bad parts. On the plus side, it is really, really interesting to see how that Starscream, who we really consider to be one of the weakest Decepticons of all time, and is total coward and such, to see him be so devastating and literally take down the entire Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Ratchet, Prowl, and Bulkhead nearly single-handedly is terrifying. But the thing is, the fact that he's voiced by Tom Kenny, you have SpongeBob going around thing these evil things, it really kind of makes him hard to take seriously. So you don't really feel Starscream is a real danger. Oh wow, I hope he doesn't kill Optimus or anything like that. But no, it really made sense that you feel oh my god, I can't believe SpongeBob is butchering Bumblebee and all that. That's how I felt at some points. I mean, there are some points I'm oh my god, I can't believe Starscream's actually this strong. And that's another thing where I think this series really is really one of its strong points is in the fact that because of the fact that the Autobots in Transformers anime are essentially nobodies. They're not the grand heroes like they are in Prime and robots in the Unicron trilogy in the movies. They're just a bunch of basically engineers per se that are forced to become heroes. And then you have the Decepticons who are all just basically war veterans that have been doing this for millions of years. This we'll go back to part 1. At this point, Optimus doesn't even know, Megatron doesn't even know who Optimus is. It's not you don't have this great rivalry between Optimus and Megatron. At this point, Megatron has no idea who Optimus is, and neither does Starscream. None of the Decepticons know who Optimus or any Autobots are. To them, the Decepticons, the Autobots are essentially nobodies. And so at this point, Starscream ends up terrorizing the event, and apparently tries to and is about to kill Sorry with one of his like null ray blasts when Bumblebee jumps in front of the shot and is knocked unconscious by it. At that point, Starscream takes Sorry, Professor Sumdac, Captain Fans, and a bunch of other humans and Bumblebee, and stores them in the bullet train and puts them on top of this giant tower, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna kill them unless you give me the Allspark. And so we get this nice little like scene. It's at this point where after this, Sorry, Optimus, and the rest of the Autobots come up with a plan to try and free Professor Sumdac and Bumblebee and the rest of the humans from Starscream. So they decided they think the best idea is that Optimus will pretend to give the Allspark to Starscream, and while Starscream is distracted, Prowl and Sorry will sneak up to the ship, use Sorry's key to revive Bumblebee, and then with Bumblebee they'll get the humans off the tower. So this plan works so far up until at this point when after Sorry revives Bumblebee, the Starscream notices that and tries to knock the train off the tower, at which point Bumblebee, Prowl, Sorry, Professor Sumdac, and the rest of them fall off the tower, and Optimus tries to save them, but then thanks to Bumblebee and Prowl, Prowl grabs Professor Sumdac and all the other people and puts him in the train, and with his jetpack thrusters is able to slow the train down so that they can land safely. And while Sorry has Bumblebee has Sorry, they drive out of the train and fall towards the ground, where Ratchet catches them with one of his magnet hands. But I gotta say, I really appreciated the way the weapons like of each character work in this. Like Optimus has his battle axe instead of like the Energon hand and the Energon axe hand that he had in G1, or the hand blades he has in he has his Energon, his real like fire axe, which like can extend. He has the grappling hook in his wrist. Bulkhead has his claw arms, which can turn into wrecking balls like in his prime version, and can be shot out like grappling hooks as well. Bumblebee's hands can turn into like Stinger pistols, and then Drift, of course, has his ninja throwing stars, which he can use as well. Which I'm not Drift, Prowl. I'm thinking because they're both ninjas, so I'm thinking Prowl is Drift. And so, anyway, after Ratchet catches Prowl, it starts off at first, though, with all the Autobots playing Keep Away from Starscream with the Allspark, in which Sorry and Bumblebee have the Allspark, and they're driving away from Starscream. Bumblebee throws it to Bulkhead, to Prowl, who sends it in a car down to Bulkhead, who fails to catch it, but then Starscream catches it, and you think Starscream's got it, but then Bulkhead punches Starscream and gets the Allspark, and then he throws it to Optimus, and then Optimus and Starscream get into their fight. Optimus supposedly beats Starscream and gets the Allspark, but not before he's hit by Starscream's null ray, and Starscream gets the Allspark and uses it to nearly take down Optimus and the rest of the Autobots. However, they escape, and Optimus decides to sneak up on Starscream by climbing the top of the tower again where Starscream is, and jumps off the tower and tackles Starscream, leading them to like crash through like buildings and all that. And it's really, really epic with this fight, and then it ends with Starscream trying to use the Allspark on Optimus to kill him, but then Optimus fights back with the Allspark, and the Allspark seemingly explodes, and then after that, Starscream's nowhere to be seen, so it's implied that Starscream has died yet again, and then Optimus is just shown falling out of the sky with the Allspark and is badly injured, and so and then Optimus as Autobots run over to him, Optimus actually ends up dying. And a complete G1 death in which his whole body turns like white and rusted. And I think once again it's a really cool nod to G1. So after Optimus dies, Sorry's like just in complete tears, and and one thing though I am like kind of concerned about is the way that like how like I suppose affected Bumblebee and like Prowl and everyone else is to Optimus' death. I guess it could be chalked to the fact that really Optimus and everyone haven't really known each other that much, and hence is why like in part 1 Bumblebee asked Optimus like why he being like a repairing space bridge instead of like being an elite guard. So I'm assuming like this just because they don't really know each other at this point. So after that, like Sorry's like crying tears, and she tries to use the key to bring Optimus back, but like Ratchet's like it's not gonna work this time because his spark's gone. So but then at that point Sorry's key like upgrades itself, and then she jams that into Optimus' spark chamber, which essentially revives his spark and brings him back to life. So Optimus ends up coming back to life, all the other Autobots are happy, and they decide and then they go back to like repairing Detroit after what Starscream had done after Starscream supposedly died, and so Optimus is happy with this. He finally feels like he's a hero now, and such. And then at this point we get this huge stinger though about Professor Sumdac, who is alone in his lab seeing all this, and he's really terrified because we see behind him as he walks out of his lab Megatron's head, which has all been like dissected and such. We see like half of his face has been torn off and such like that. And we learned that the reason why all of Detroit is all like roboticized and all that is because Professor Sumdac reverse engineering Megatron's head to that, and he fears that if the Autobots learn that he has Megatron's head, that they'll never forgive him for that. So he has to keep it a secret from him and from the Autobots, and sorry. And that's how it ends. And so that was my review of Transformers Animated Season 1, Episodes 1 through 3, Transformers Rollout, Parts 1, 2, and 3. If I had to rate this pilot series, if I had to rate each episode individually, I would give Parts 1 and 3 10 out of 10s, and then Part 2 a 9.5 out of 10. Overall, the 3-part series premiere, Transformers Rollout, would probably get a 9.8 out of 10. This series, it really shows just how, even though Transformers Animated seems a lot more like kiddie than like the designs of Robots in the Skies and like Prime and such, it really does have its moments of like maturity and such, and it does have good themes. The fight scenes are awesome. The way it reinvents like fan favorite characters like Optimus, Bumblebee, and Blitzwing and Prowl, it really works out really well. I love the characters. Sorry ends up as kind of like a prototype Miko though, with a little bit of her annoying in Part 2, though she gets better in Part 3. And the plot the twist like with Professor Sumdac using Megatron's head to power Detroit, I think is really cool, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm also happy to say that after, while there will be no more Transformers Animated reviews for a while, once I finish uploading all of Transformers Robots in the Sky Season 3, I will be doing a review of all of Transformers Robots in the Sky Season 1, and then next year, our next reviews will be going through an entire review of Transformers Animated, the complete series, until Transformers Cyberverse premieres. At that point, we'll do the Transformers Cyberverse episodes as they come out. Then, when the season's over, we'll go back to doing Transformers Animated episodes. And hopefully, at this point, this will continue until we probably get to, hopefully, the 10th anniversary of Transformers Prime, which will be in actually 3 years, or almost 2 years now. So if you can, hopefully, we'll get around then we can do the 10th anniversary review for Transformers Prime when that comes out. So that's gonna be soon. I'll be back eventually when episode 4, when I finish my Transformers Robots Skies reviews. If you like this review, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later.